Skyalert USA Weather Report, December 9, 2025. Critical weather briefing. Breaking. Polar vortex splits Arctic blast grips North America. Good evening, weather watchers. This is your Skyalert USA critical weather briefing for December 9, 2025. And we're tracking multiple dangerous weather systems across the United States and Canada that demand your immediate attention. The polar vortex event thing. Meteorological story dominating North America today is unprecedented. A rare polar vortex split event is currently underway, sending frigid Arctic air plunging southward across Canada and the United States. This phenomenon, caused by a breakdown in the stratospheric polar vortex, is creating a winter weather pattern that forecasters are calling a polar express, and it's far from over. The split has created dual cores of extremely cold air, with one positioned directly over central Canada. This configuration is enabling a persistent northerly flow that continues pushing Arctic air deep into the continental United States. Temperature anomalies are running 15 to 25 degrees below normal across the northern plains, upper Midwest, and Great Lakes regions. Early this morning, cities across the Midwest woke to temperatures that challenged decades-old records. Chicago saw the mercury drop to near-record lows, while Minneapolis and the Dakotas experienced sub-zero conditions with dangerous wind chills. The National Weather Service has issued frostbite warnings, cautioning that exposed skin can freeze within minutes under these conditions. 2. The cold air mass isn't just breaking records, it's reshaping the winter weather narrative for the entire month ahead. Meteorologists project this Arctic outbreak will persist through mid-December, with brief warming periods followed by renewed cold surges. This extended cold pattern increases the likelihood of a white Christmas across the northern and eastern United States. Catastrophic flooding threat. Pacific Northwest under siege, while the eastern two-thirds of the nation battles extreme cold. The Pacific Northwest faces an entirely different but equally dangerous threat. An extraordinary atmospheric river, stretching an unprecedented 7,000 miles from near the Philippines across the Pacific Ocean, is unleashing catastrophic rainfall across Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. This isn't just any storm system. The Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes has rated this atmospheric river as level 4 out of 5, indicating exceptional moisture content and duration. Some meteorological models suggest portions may reach level 5, the highest category, representing potentially hazardous conditions. The deluge began Monday morning, December 8th, and will continue through at least Wednesday, December 11th, with additional storms forecast to arrive this weekend. Rainfall totals are staggering. Forecasters predict 4 to 8 inches across lowland areas of western Washington and Oregon, with isolated pockets receiving 8 to 12 inches. The Olympic Mountains and Washington Cascades could see 15 to 18 inches by week's end. These aren't typical Pacific Northwest winter rains. The National Weather Service has issued flood watches affecting millions of residents across western Washington and Oregon. 3 dozen river gauges are forecast to exceed flood stage this week, with major flooding possible along the Cowlitz, Nisqually, Puyallup, Skagit, Skycamish, and Tolt rivers in Washington. In Oregon, the Willamette River at Oregon City is forecast to rise more than 5 feet, while the Clackamas River may swell by 13 feet. The Columbia River, near Portland, one of North America's mightiest waterways, is expected to rise approximately 4.5 feet. The Snoqualmie River near Carnation in Washington faces an 11-foot rise, threatening communities that have experienced devastating floods in recent years. Seattle-Tacoma International Airport is preparing for potential disruptions. Periods of heavy rain, reduced visibility, and strong winds could cause flight delays and cancellations through midweek. Beyond river flooding, the atmospheric river presents additional hazards. Urban flash flooding is likely in areas with poor drainage, particularly in Seattle and Portland. Standing water on roadways will create dangerous driving conditions during morning and evening commutes. Perhaps most concerning is the elevated landslide and debris flow risk. With soils already saturated from weekend rainfall, the additional 4 to 10 inches falling on steep terrain creates perfect conditions for slope failures. The National Weather Service has specifically warned residents in mountainous areas and those living near recent wildfire burn scars to monitor conditions closely and prepare for possible evacuations. High winds, accompanying the atmospheric river, have already caused scattered power outages across coastal regions. Wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour have been recorded along exposed headlands, with forecasters warning of additional outages as trees, weakened by saturated soil, topple onto power lines. The snow level during this event is notably high, hovering between 6,000 and 8,000 feet in the Cascades. This means the Olympic and Cascade ski resorts are receiving rain, not snow. At lower elevations, disappointing for winter sports enthusiasts, but reducing the flood risk that would come from rapid snowmelt. Winter storm systems sweep the nation between the bitter cold in the east and flooding rains in the west. Multiple winter storm systems are tracking across the nation's midsection. Winter storm warnings remain in effect across 6 states: Alaska, Colorado, Illinois, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. The National Weather Service has cautioned that conditions could become life-threatening for anyone caught unprepared outdoors. In Alaska, the storm system is delivering prolonged snowfall with powerful winds through Monday night. The Juneau Weather Office warned that gusty winds may knock down tree branches and cause power interruptions. Wind chills near White Pass are expected to drop to 20 degrees below zero, raising serious frostbite risks within minutes of exposure. The upper Midwest continues, dealing with heavy snow that swept through over the weekend. Snow totals of 4 to 6 inches blanketed portions of South Dakota, northern Iowa, and southern Wisconsin, with locally higher amounts in elevated terrain. The NWS office in La Crosse reported snow moving from west to east overnight, making roads across northeast Iowa and southwest Wisconsin slippery and treacherous. Storm warnings were active for Floyd, Chickasaw, and Fayette counties in Iowa until early Monday morning, as heavy snowfall created hazardous travel conditions. Cities including Dissert, Iowa Falls, and Gladbrook remained under alert as road crews worked to clear and treat roadways. In Illinois, Carroll and Whiteside counties grappled with low visibility and hazardous road conditions due to overnight snowfall. Chicago received 2 to 5 inches of snow, leading to slick roadways and sidewalks during the Monday morning commute. Colorado's Elkhead and Park Mountains are forecast to receive up to 3 inches of snow, with wind gusts reaching 35 miles per hour through Tuesday. While these totals are manageable, the combination of snow and wind creates hazardous mountain driving conditions. Wyoming faces the most severe winter storm threat in the interior west. Winter storm warnings are active for the Sierra Madre and Snowy Ranges, where snow accumulation between 5 and 10 inches is expected initially. However, some exposed areas could see totals reaching up to 2 feet by Wednesday. Most concerning in Wyoming are the extreme wind conditions. Gusts up to 65 miles per hour are forecast, creating whiteout conditions and severe disorientation risks for hikers, snowmobilers, and anyone venturing into backcountry areas. The combination of heavy snow and violent winds makes travel through mountain passes extremely dangerous or impossible. 3-day forecast. Continued extreme conditions Tuesday, December 10th. The atmospheric river over the Pacific Northwest reaches peak intensity Tuesday into Wednesday. This represents the most dangerous period for flooding, with rainfall rates potentially exceeding half an inch per hour during the heaviest bursts. Multiple rivers across western Washington will crest Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Across the central United States, a fast-moving clipper system will develop along the Canadian border Tuesday, bringing a narrow corridor of wintry precipitation from Fargo, North Dakota, to Grand Rapids, Michigan. Several inches of snow and periods of freezing rain are possible, prompting winter storm watches for eastern North Dakota and western Minnesota. The Arctic air mass remains firmly entrenched across the northern plains, upper Midwest, and Great Lakes. Daytime highs will struggle to reach double digits across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Overnight lows in the Dakotas may again drop below zero, with wind chills reaching 15 to 25 below zero. Lake effect snowbands will develop downwind of Lakes Superior, Michigan, and Erie as Arctic air flows over the relatively warm lake waters. Snowfall rates in the most intense bands could reach 1 to 2 inches per hour, creating rapidly changing conditions and localized whiteouts. The southeast and mid-Atlantic states will experience quiet but cold weather Tuesday. Temperatures will run 5 to 10 degrees below normal, with mostly clear skies. However, the Arctic front will begin advancing southward Tuesday night, setting up a pattern change for Wednesday. Wednesday, December 11th, the atmospheric river over the Pacific Northwest begins weakening Wednesday afternoon. Though substantial rainfall continues through midday, rivers that crested Tuesday night will remain elevated, with flood warnings likely extending through Thursday or Friday even as rainfall tapers. Behind the departing moisture, a brief break in precipitation is expected Wednesday evening across western Washington and Oregon. However, this respite will be short-lived, as meteorological models indicate another atmospheric river developing in the eastern Pacific, forecast to arrive by the weekend. The Clipper system that affected the northern plains Tuesday will move into the Great Lakes Wednesday, bringing snow to portions of Michigan, northern Ohio, and western New York. Snowfall totals of 3 to 6 inches are possible, with locally higher amounts in lake-effect snow bands. Arctic air continues spreading southward Wednesday, reaching the Ohio Valley and northern mid-Atlantic cities. From St. Louis to Cincinnati to Pittsburgh, we'll see temperatures drop throughout the day, with overnight lows Wednesday into Thursday dipping into the teens and lower 20s. 2. The polar vortex pattern remains locked in place Wednesday, with no significant warming trend in sight for the central and eastern United States. This ensures continued below-normal temperatures through the rest of the week and likely into the following week. Thursday, December 12th, the Pacific Northwest gets a one-day reprieve from heavy rain Thursday. Though cloudy skies and scattered showers will persist, flood warnings will remain in effect as rivers slowly recede, with several days required for waters to return to normal levels. The most significant weather Thursday will be concentrated across the eastern United States. The Arctic front pushes through the mid-Atlantic and southeast, bringing a dramatic temperature drop. Morning temperatures in the 40s and 50s will give way to afternoon readings in the 30s and 20s as the cold front passes. Catastrophic. Snow continues downwind of the Great Lakes Thursday, with the heaviest bands affecting the traditional snow belts of western and northern New York, northwest Pennsylvania, northeast Ohio, and western Michigan. Some locations could see additional accumulations of 6 to 12 inches in persistent bands. The pattern across the central United States remains cold and quiet Thursday, with high pressure providing mostly clear skies, but maintaining well below normal temperatures. Daytime highs across the northern plains will range from the single digits to teens, while overnight lows drop sub-zero in many locations. By Thursday evening, attention turns back to the Pacific Northwest as satellite imagery begins showing the next atmospheric river approaching the coast. This system, forecast to make landfall Friday or Saturday, appears slightly weaker than the current event, but will still bring heavy rainfall to already saturated areas, raising concerns about renewed flooding. Extended outlook. Polar pattern persists. Looking beyond the 3-day forecast, meteorological models show remarkable consistency in maintaining the current weather pattern through mid-December. Dipolar. The polar vortex configuration will keep a persistent cold air supply flowing into North America, while individual cold waves will be separated by brief 1 to 2-day warming periods. The overall temperature trend will remain well below normal across much of the United States. The extended cold pattern has significant implications. The Great Lakes, which have been running warmer than normal, will see ice formation accelerating in the coming weeks. This could moderate lake-effect snow production later in December as ice cover increases. Though substantial lake-effect events remain likely through the next 2 weeks, the Pacific Northwest faces a particularly challenging pattern. While individual atmospheric rivers will come and go, the overall storm track appears locked in place through at least mid-December. This means recurring heavy rainfall events, elevated river levels, and ongoing flood risks across western Washington and Oregon. California, interestingly, is largely missing these Pacific storms. The atmospheric rivers are targeting areas farther north due to the particular jet stream configuration. This is good news for California in the short term as it reduces flooding concerns. However, it's problematic for long-term water supply, as the state depends on winter precipitation to fill reservoirs and build snowpack. The pattern may shift closer to Christmas week, with some indications of storms tracking farther south along the west coast. However, confidence in specifics remains low beyond 10 days. For the eastern United States, the question isn't whether it will be cold through mid-December. That appears certain. Rather, the question is how many snow-producing systems will develop and where they will track. The cold air will be in place. Opportunities for snow will depend on moisture availability and storm tracks. Critical safety warnings with such widespread and varied hazardous weather affecting different regions. The National Weather Service has issued multiple urgent safety warnings for the Pacific Northwest. Never attempt to drive through flooded roadways. Turn around, don't drown. Just 6 inches of moving water can knock you off your feet, and 12 inches can carry away most vehicles. Many flood deaths occur in vehicles. If you live in a flood-prone area, monitor river levels on the National Weather Service Advanced Hydrologic Prediction Service website. Have an evacuation plan ready and know your routes to higher ground. Residents in areas with steep terrain or near recent wildfire burn scars should be especially vigilant for landslides and debris flows. Unusual sounds such as trees cracking or boulders knocking together may indicate an approaching landslide. If you suspect an imminent landslide, evacuate immediately. 4 areas under winter storm warnings. Travel is strongly discouraged during winter storm warnings. If you must travel, carry an emergency kit in your vehicle, including food, water, warm clothing, blankets, a flashlight, and a fully charged cell phone. Dress in layers if you must be outdoors. Frostbite can occur within minutes when wind chills drop to dangerous levels. Cover all exposed skin, including your face, hands, and ears. Check on elderly neighbors and relatives. Ensure they have adequate heating and emergency supplies. For areas experiencing extreme cold, bring pets indoors. If outdoor shelter is necessary, ensure it is dry, draft-free, and large enough to sit and lie down, but small enough to retain body heat. Protect pipes from freezing by letting faucets drip and keeping cabinet doors under sinks open to allow warm air to circulate. Be aware of signs of hypothermia, confusion, drowsiness, slurred speech, and loss of coordination. If you suspect someone has hypothermia, call 911 immediately and begin gentle warming. Conclusion: the weather pattern affecting North America on this December 9, 2025, represents one of the most significant multi-hazard situations of the winter season thus far. From catastrophic flooding in the Pacific Northwest to a split polar vortex bringing dangerous cold across 2/3 of the continent, millions of Americans face weather-related threats. The persistence of this pattern through mid-December means these aren't isolated events, but rather the beginning of an extended period of challenging winter weather. Communities from Seattle to Chicago to New York must prepare for continued impacts in the days and weeks ahead. This is a time to take weather warnings seriously, to check on neighbors and loved ones, and to make sensible decisions about travel and outdoor activities. The forces of nature now at work across our continent demand respect and preparedness. Stay tuned to Skyalert USA for continuing coverage of these developing weather situations. We'll bring you updates as conditions evolve and new threats emerge. Remember, when severe weather threatens, your awareness and preparation can make the difference between inconvenience and disaster. This has been your Skyalert USA critical weather briefing for December 9, 2025. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay weather aware.